Hi, I'm Dana and welcome to another episode of Learning to be Autistic. If you're new, this is a series that I started because I was diagnosed as autistic late at 21 and it felt like having to completely figure out who I was all over again as an autistic person, thus learning to be autistic, because I'd spent my whole life trying to learn or pretend to be neurotypical, which ties into what today's episode's about perfectly, because I want to talk about my experience with masking, because it's increasingly something that I think a lot of people will relate to, as I find more and more people I relate to in regards to masking, which has been massively comforting, so fingers crossed this can provide the same relief and comfort to someone else. Masking is also known as compensating or camouflaging, because that's what you're doing. You're slipping on this mask, you're camouflaging your autistic traits, you're compensating for your lack of neurotypicality, and you're pretending to not be autistic, essentially. You know, it's not as straightforward and easy like that, but that's basically what's going on. I've seen a lot online, a lot of articles calling it a social survival strategy. I don't know if that's like an official term or just something that's being used, but that's exactly what it is. It's a strategy that a lot of us autistic people come up with, pretty much subconsciously as far as I'm aware personally. And it's a way of surviving and getting through stuff because the world is hard. Now, I think there is debate in the autism community as to if masking is actually like intentional or unintentional, conscious or subconscious. And for me, it's not entirely subconscious because I have moments where I'm like, oh, I'm masking. But I also, I'm not doing it on purpose. I have a very, very hard time not masking if I'm not comfortable, unless it's a very, very comfortable situation for me. I'm not sure I can choose to not mask. Before we get into all of that though, I should talk about what I actually do to mask. And it's not that much because I'm definitely still noticing things that are related to it. It's been quite a lengthy process for me to realise just how much I mask and how many situations that I thought I was comfortable in that I actually am masking a lot in. So it's probably a list that's gonna grow. But currently on the list, eye contact. I'm a forced eye contact kind of gal. It's not great and I don't do it well. I really struggle to focus on what someone's saying to me once I start forcing eye contact. So I don't listen to what they're saying. So I tend to not force it and then have horrible moments when I haven't looked this person in the eye for like 15 minutes and now I'm gonna really need to, aren't I? I'm gonna have to do that. So I do, and then I'm like, crap, when do I look away? When's it appropriate to look away? What do I look at when I do look away? It becomes a whole time. But outside of that, expressions are kind of tricky for me. Like, I thought it was just completely normal standard human experience to every week or two have half an hour where you practice facial expressions in the mirror, because how else do you know what your face is doing? But apparently the neurotypicals, just their faces just do those expressions and that's just how they feel reflected on the outside. But no, not for me. It's not always masking. Sometimes it's a case of I'm feeling an emotion. I know the facial expression for this and there's people around me that I would like to show how I'm feeling. It's not always masking, but it is always a conscious choice for me to make a facial expression. I'm going for facial and vocal because it's slightly different between the two, because obviously facial expressions, I'm largely mimicking those around me and sort of trying to pick up on what the mood is from them. Whereas with vocal expressions, I mean things like, I had a friend that said hella a lot. It was back in the day when that was kind of cool to be saying, so it wasn't too bad. But suddenly, all of a sudden, I'm out here saying hello all the time because my friend is. And it's things like that, like the people that are around me, I pick up a lot of vocal expressions from and use them throughout my day-to-day life as though they're mine. Editing Dana here, because I just wanted to further explain this a little bit. I didn't explain it very well. The reason that I was doing this was because I don't know what to say a lot of the time. A lot of the time, I've absorbed the information. I'm glad that you've spoken to me. I have no clue what to say. So I picked up things like, oh yeah, that's hella that, yeah. Like my big ones now, because I don't have friends anymore, I pick up ones that are online. So I'm constantly just like, oof, dead. Like not great. I definitely need to pick up better ones, but that's what's going on with that. But facial expressions are by far the most difficult for me. And I've had times when I've gotten like a little too comfortable around people that I maybe shouldn't have been that comfortable around after several years of knowing them. And there's come the point when I'm enjoying a conversation, I'm having a good time, I'm thinking everything's great and everything's going well. And then they're like, are you okay? Like, why does your face look like that? You look so pissed off. And I'm like, oh, I wasn't putting an expression on, sorry. It's really frustrating because like I wasn't pissed off, I wasn't annoyed, I wasn't angry, whatever. But apparently that's how I looked. And that's where I smile like all the fucking time and people think I'm really cheery and bubbly. And it's like, well, no, but it's just that I know that people aren't gonna get upset or annoyed or angry with me if I'm smiling because they know that I'm not pissed off or upset or angry or whatever. It's just so that people leave me alone. Now, another part of masking is also scripting, which I do very, very heavily. Pretty much any conversation that someone can start with me, I've already practiced what I'd reply to it, you know? And I don't mean this with like family members and friends so much. You know, I think we all have, I have imaginary little conversations with the people that I like and love sometimes in my head, but I wouldn't say that I'm scripting because I'm not intending to have those conversations in real life. They're just a bit of inside entertainment for me, I guess. I don't know. It seemed way more normal before I started talking about it, okay? But yeah, whereas I'm talking when it's the cashier in a shop, you know, the person that you're ordering your coffee from, a bus driver, just people that you have to see on the day-to-day that you don't really know that well or interact with, you know, people in work, that kind of thing. I have my little script. I know that I'm going to go in and they're going to be like, oh, hi Dana, how are you? I'm going to go, oh, I'm good, thanks, such and such, how are you? And they're going to go, oh, not bad, thanks, can you do this thing? And I'm going to say, oh, sorry, I have this pre-prepared excuse because I don't want to have to interact with you for longer than possible, so I can't. Goodbye. You know, I know exactly what I'm going to tell people before they've even asked me anything or said anything to me because I'm a prepared, anxious bitch with autism. And alongside scripting, I have things that I absolutely know I am not going to talk about. And I mean that in the way of minimising myself, minimising my interest in who I am. And I don't want to say hiding because like people know like, oh, Dana really likes Doctor Who. Dana's a big fan of Lord of the Rings. Dana likes these things. You know, people do know what my interests are. But I think very few people that know me in real life that I've only vaguely interacted with, you know, that aren't close to me, I don't think any of them would realise like how extreme my interests are, really. Because I know it's weird. I don't want people to think I'm weird. So when Doctor Who comes up in conversation with someone that I'm not super comfortable with and someone's like, oh, Dana likes Doctor Who, don't you? I'm like, oh yeah, Doctor Who's cool. When in reality, I want to be like, so who's your favourite Doctor? My favourite Doctor's 9 because I really loved 9. He was my first Doctor and he like meant the world to me. But I also really love 13 and she's like by far become one of my favourites. But I really loved 11 too. And what did you think of Amy? Like what? You know, I want to go in on it. I want to talk about Doctor Who. But I know that it's weird and annoying and people don't like it. So I don't. And you could say that's me trying to have some degree of social skills, I guess. But I would consider it to be masking because you know, that's who I am. That's what I want to say. And I don't. And I think one of the really big and most frustrating parts of masking for me is ignoring sensory issues and sensory needs. Because it's made it really difficult to tell what some of my sensory issues and needs are. So like if I'm in a new place or even if I'm in like a restaurant or a coffee shop or a friend's house, I hate going to use the bathroom in front of people. I mean, I know I'm not using the bathroom in front of people, but you know when you have to be like, oh, I'm just going to go to the bathroom, oh, excuse me, just going to shuffle past this chair and go over to... First of all, you've got to find the bathroom, which when I'm out in like a public space, I'm anxious. I don't want to have to like look around and try and find a room and see people like looking at me because I'm looking around. It's a whole thing. And I know it's not really a whole thing, but it is to me. But it means that I will just sit there and not go to the bathroom, and I will sit there and sit there and sit there. And then everyone's ready to go, so it's not the time to go to the bathroom now, so we go to the next place and I have a few drinks and I sit there and I'm like, okay, I have absolutely no choice now because I think I'm going to pee myself. And I'll just sit with the sensory discomfort of desperately needing the fucking bathroom rather than go to the bathroom, because I don't know how to mask the awkwardness that comes with that in the way that neurotypical people do, I guess. I'm not sure that was actually the best fucking... I'm actually not sure that was the best example. There's a lot of examples. I used to go clubbing occasionally with friends when I was like 17. But I would go to like very, very loud places with them and I'd be like, yeah, this is great. Rather than be like, it's too loud, it's too bright and I want to go home. You know, I'd just sit through like absolute sensory hell and be like, I'm having a good time. Rather than admit like, I hate this. I feel like I'm about to like throw up or go to sleep or vomit or all three at once. And I really want to go home. Nah, because like everyone else is having a good time, so I'm meant to be having a good time. So just ignore the stupidly loud noise and the bright ass, like, it was the time. You can tell it was the time. I didn't enjoy it. But it seems worth putting yourself through these uncomfortable and oftentimes horrible situations in order to come across as someone who's normal. You know, that's what masking is for me. It's always been, I'm trying to pretend to be normal. And having been late diagnosed, it's especially sort of frustrating, really, because it's like, so all this time that I spent trying desperately to be like everyone else, thinking that everyone else was also trying desperately to be like everyone else. Everyone else is just doing it. Like off the bat, they're just doing it. And it's just me that's like going, and not just me, I know y'all are out there, but you know, it's not everyone that's having to suffer through day-to-day life like this. Like everyone else just talks to people and like actually like their faces react to how they feel and what they're thinking and everything. Like unless I'm crying, my face is just doing what it does a lot of the time. Like I have to actively think about it. And it's just difficult to fully comprehend for me that other people aren't all having to do these things. And I have to have all these little strategies and things. And even when people talk about unmasking, it's like, these are the things that I have always done around people though. I don't know who I am or how I'm supposed to act when I'm not doing these things. You know, people don't really acknowledge that as much as it is a social survival strategy, it's also something that's like kind of completely removed any idea I had of who I am, because I react to things in ways that I don't want to when I'm around other people, you know, in ways that don't feel like me, because I'm not being me, I'm masking. And the mask can become so heavy that you are basically pretending to be a completely different person in some ways. You know, it's still me, but it's the neurotypical Dana. It's who Dana would be if I was neurotypical, not who I am as me. And it's just quite an odd distinction to have. Like, it feels like there's sort of like multiple versions of myself that I'm trying to couple together, which is kind of the point of this series, to be fair. So at least we're doing something right to work on it. But it's just very difficult and it's very weird. And it's one of those things where, like, if it's this difficult for me to understand about myself, how are other people supposed to understand it? And then my video stopped recording and you're seeing me now. So obviously I didn't notice at the time. I've only noticed while editing it, which is fab. But I had basically said everything I was going to say. So I'm not going to add anything else. I'm just going to say thank you for watching. I don't normally fuck up videos this bad. It's just because I've just returned. So if you want to see slightly better videos that are just like this, please do like and subscribe. I hate saying that. But whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, afternoon, day, week, month, year. And I'll see you again in a couple of days.